Alright, Mark Sargent again, and we will focus now on the clothing part. So once there's a basic shape of hair, then it's time to switch and use some of the techniques we have learned with the hair. Okay, so going back to the body and having a clothing on her. So let me use the mask lasso tool. Mask lasso tool, go to the side view and make sure that we see the neck, and just creating a kind of a choker. Let me go in a better direction, so adding more to it. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so there we are, and this is just a quick example on how to create the mesh itself. So hit on extract, and extract is a preview, so that means when you are rotating this thing around, it will just disappear completely. Now by default, this extract has a fairly low settings. That means it tries to maintain the original mesh and just creates a shell. And usually when you're using it for design or clothing or whatever, you want to have a good, fairly smooth model. So I will turn this function off and enable the little bit higher value. So let me just show with the... So we have this little circle. We can turn this on and off, and the value. This sliders actually works pretty well with your pen. You don't have to worry about messing up things. So let me hit on extract. We have a couple more settings as well, but right now, can you see the difference? This is not that jaggy anymore, and we can choose the thickness. Now here's this slider. The thickness slider will not really work with a pen, so just click in and type in 0.005. It was 0.02, so this will be 0.005, which one I think it's okay. So I will hit it and hit accept. Don't forget, when you rotate around, it will not stay with you. So let me hit it, accept, and there we go. Now, two things you have to know right away. One thing is, this thing is masked, so you have to control and drag, remove the mask, but not just this one. The figure underneath, that is also masked. So let me select the figure if it allows me to select. No, my pen is not working all the time properly. So this is the figure, and if we are going to solo mode, the mask is still there. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's your worst enemy. So I like to right away, if I know I don't want to keep it, I'm just remove that mask. Sometimes you want to keep it, so pay attention to this. But 90% in the beginning, if you're in a beginner phase, you don't really want to have that. Okay, so let me go with solo mode. Here we are. This is our mesh. Now this mesh, this particular model, is high in density, and this is what happens. If you take a look at here around the edge, this one is just really a duplicated and displaced edge, so we have no resolution there. So why do I mention it? Because if you start sculpting, this can really just mess up things. The other thing is, if you're using a BCT clay tubes brush, it will just eat out the interior parts from the mesh. Okay, so be careful. If you want to keep it, you can keep it, but you have to use a ZRemesher or something, or Dynamesh is not really useful for thin things like this. You can do it, but with a high resolution. So in this case, because this model is unified already, we have to have a higher resolution. So it's not really, but when you're using the clay brushes on this, like sculpting clothing directly, then you have to use the auto masking and where are you backface mask. Okay, so just this protects the interior parts. Okay, now what's next? You don't really work with, there's two techniques to work with this. I will show the in-between technique and explain why we care. So if you have a model like this and you want to sculpt freely because it will be come out in a device or just a design idea, the best thing what you do is, if you go to solo mode and Ctrl Shift and let's select rectangle, select this model. Okay, so this is the outer shell. Again, this is the outer shell. And just use delete hidden, and delete hidden is in geometry, modified topology, delete hidden. Now everything else is gone, and what I do like is going Dynamesh, This model requires a higher Dynamesh resolution, but usually 128 that was before, it's a good Dynamesh resolution. But here in this particular file, your Dynamesh resolution needs to be higher. So 0.100 1K. So control drag, and now it's there. So this is again a good drafting model. If you wish to design, explore ideas, you can just BMV and create a nice pattern. Just stroke. Okay, what we want to do. Maybe this would be a kind of an armor. BMV S. Make sure it's grabbing. Okay, we can do kind of crazy things around. Maybe this would be just extended and just do what we want. Okay, we are designing something that's going back on here. Shift F, looking from a distance. Is it looking good? Maybe this one should be there. Pulling out some things again, just to. So this is, in general, this is a great little tool to design stuff and explore things, starting from a shape that fits well to the body. Maybe this is just kind of a protective neck piece, whatever. Okay, now so what else? If you want to go beyond and you want to create clothing with extract in help, that works a little bit differently, because clothing requires low resolution. It's not really meant to be sculpting. It's meant to be simulated. So you have an in-between step where your model should be low resolution, not the lowest, but should be relatively low to make the simulation believable, but also manageable. So here is what happens. Let me just cut off this part because it will just go away. Or no, we have under history of thousands. So let me just go back and keep it in this way. There we go. So we want to have clothing on her, and using the mask lasso tool just to create a mask, and looking for the rights. Okay, I want to include more, and I'm including because when I'm rotating, I can't really include because the hands will be in the way. So this is why I'm adding more and using Control and Alt to subtract. And subtraction is much easier. Even if I'm touching the hands, I don't have to worry about them. Now, so that's the main shape. Let me add a little bit more in here. Okay, for the sleeves. And using Control and Alt and cut off the neck. Wow, this one is not really handy. Oh yeah, this one's believable. Okay, if you want to go back, you can paint it. Just don't forget to switch to the different masking tool. Okay, so make a correctional thing. Otherwise, it could be like a ballet top, and maybe a little bit more using Alt, Ctrl Z. Yep, using Alt. And just having this. Okay, so now once we have this one, of course we want to use extract. So subtool and going back to extract, and extract remembers our settings, micro polish, and this is what happens. So don't worry, we have some overhanging parts around the breasts and the shoulders, and this is happening because we are using a fairly strong smooth, but it's okay, it's no problem, it's going to be easily fixed. So we can go with this. The other thing is, if you have, for example, a tailored idea that how this model should look, then you can, for example, create a proxy, sculpt out some areas, just refine the breast size, make some changes, and if you have underwear or anything like that, the first layer should come first. Okay, so if you have a bra on, if you have a shirt on underneath, if you have some armor, depending on the character, just make that first what has direct contact with the skin, and then put the other layers and make them part of the collision. But you will see what collision is. So this is okay for now, and I will hit accept, and right away I'm controlling dragging, and right away I'm selecting the figure, making sure that control drag, it removes all the parts. It's really important, especially when you're using simulation with dynamics, because dynamics can handle and it will consider if you have masks living. Okay, let me to go back here, selecting the model, clicking, tapping. All right, so we have a thickness, and this is fairly high resolution. We have a thickness. We don't really want to keep it. For dynamics, we need only one single layer mesh. Now, how to deal with that? First thing first, using select rectangle, hold down Ctrl Shift, make sure that we have an isolation. Just check the edge. If you see there's nothing, then it would be okay. Okay, so this is the original, Ctrl Shift, and now we have this tabbed, and we want to use delete hidden. So I've made in a custom interface, but again, you can do it if you preferences, go to config, enable customize, and you can use Ctrl Alt and modify topology and drag and drop it in here, Ctrl Alt. Okay, so delete hidden, now everything is gone. What's next? For sure we can make a corrections B and V, and using X symmetry is on, and using Alt just to lift this up. Usually, Alt will make your move perpendicular to the surface you are sampling with the brush. And this area, I will smooth it out and just pull it out a little bit. Okay, just not making that so much close to the chest. However, this is working fine now. Okay, because it's just much closer to a real t-shirt. And other thing, this breast shape, this meant to be without clothing. So please keep in mind that when you have clothes on, the breast shapes and some areas, the fats around the waist, whatever, they will be compressed. But the 3D software cannot compress them for you, so you have to think it through before you make the clothes simulation, because the clothes simulation will reflect only what you have underneath. And if you have underneath a mesh that looks like there's no gravity, there's no push, there's no other forces, then it will look odd in the end. So right now I will keep it as it is, but if you're going to deeper and deeper in clothing, you have to keep that in mind. Okay, so what's next? For sure we want to use a ZRemesher, because this is too high in density, but we cannot deal with ZRemesher yet because we have to split it up in panels. So let me just go to solo mode, and using the knife, Ctrl Shift, excuse me, and using here we have the record tab, and where are you, slice curve. So this is what we want to use, slice curve, and Ctrl Shift, now slice curve is going back, and we have symmetry on, but slice is not really taking care of symmetry. It doesn't care much at all. So I will just slice it here, and now we have this one. And what to do is modify topology, hit mirror and weld. And as you know, we are working on the right side of the figure, and ZBrush, this is the good side. So now we have this fixed. And I will isolate this now. And just to isolate it, we have to go back to select rectangle, isolate, and we are going back to slice curve, and move it to the side. Perspective is off, and I'm fully on side view. Okay, so I'm fully on side view. Okay, I don't really use the head, so Ctrl Shift, and holding and pressing Alt lightly, and not holding on, just pressing where you want to make a turn. And there you go. And cut it. So this is where we are. Maybe this is not came out as expected. Sometimes it's hard to control depending on the brush. So what you can do is just place another thing here, and then it would be a little bit better if you're using the Alt. Okay, so if it's not okay from first, it's much easier to do it again when you're still in this phase. So Shift F, and here's something that you may find useful. Don't forget that we have in Shift M, if you have a higher density mesh like this, and you still want to see polygroups fairly clear, the polyframe has this line function. So turn this off. This is a really neat and useful stuff to separate parts. Now I will not keep it off because we will use ZRemesher right away. Let me get back my models. And there we go, Shift F. So these are the polygroups. And Just to keep things safe, I'm Ctrl-Shift-D, duplicating this guy. Let me turn this off, and geometry, and modify ZRemesher. And what we do want is we want to keep the groups. Okay, so we have polygon groups. We want to keep them. Keep the groups. What's the size? The size 5 is good for a full character, but for a thing like this, it's not really going well. 1.5 and 3 is a good range for heavier clothing. For lighter things, you can use 1, and below 1 certainly. Don't expect these numbers work if your model is overly sized, or if it's too small, it will definitely behave differently. So this number is set to, theoretically it's about, if you set it to 1.5, that means 150,000 polygons, but it's not really happening there. It's not 15,000 in the end. And usually for a full character, if you set it to 5, it doesn't mean it will be able to create it about 5,000 polygons. It will be about 10 or 15. Okay, so just keep in mind, this is a kind of a guess value. It's working. The effect is there, but it's not as the numbers tell. So let us do the quick thing. Check if symmetry is on. Symmetry is on. Keep groups on. Everything's fine. So we can run this. Okay. So there we are, just in a second, and this is the result. Okay. So now before we are moving on, let me check this. Okay, thoroughly. Let me check this. If we have so many errors, this one, I don't really like this one. What else? Here, this looks nice. I think it can handle the things pretty well. The chest area is looking okay. Maybe this 1.5 could be a little bit higher. That helps simulation a little bit better, and we can still use some polygons as I see. So let me just undo and use a 1.75. Let me see how the change takes effect. So start ZRemesh. Okay, so this is a new one. Now honestly, it's still not as accurate here as it should be, so I will give it another attempt to make it happen, or instead of that I will use a deformation and polish by groups. Maybe that helps. Polish by groups a little bit more still, and just smooth maybe a smooth poly group. We can give it a try. I'm holding down Shift key, brush, and we have smooth brush modifiers, and we have a brush weighted smooth mode. And this is the 9, and 9 is group intersections. So if you see this long line, read the last reads area somewhere here. So I'm holding down and hovering over. This is the 9th version of smoothing. So I'll give it a try to smooth this one, the groups intersection, and maybe BMV, and just keep it in here. And using the smooth. Okay, I like it better now. Okay, and now this is refined, so I have both there. Okay, because from the simulation standpoint, the geometry is not as big of an issue if we have already something happening there. Okay, yes, going back with the smoothing option. So, because if we forget it, it will remain there, and the brush, the smooth brush, will work oddly for other tasks. So keep that in mind. Now we are ready, and get back our stuff. So leave solo mode. Here's our figure. I will use a BMV brush, and just simply as a starting point, I'm just pulling things out, just to have some room. Not necessarily, it's not for just cosmetics, but for some testing as well. I mean, when we start making the intersections collision, this can help to avoid the cloth to stuck with the figure here and there. Okay, so let us do and look for the dynamics. So here's the dynamics part, and we have dynamics up here. So this is the same thing. You can dock it anywhere. And of course, when you are, for example, if you're using this preferences and config and store config, Store config is actually storing what you have in the left side as well. So what the palettes you bought in here. And this could be useful. Sometimes if you know that you're using Z plugin a lot, and I do brush a lot of dynamics when you do clothing, and that helps a lot. So basically almost everything could be placed in here at a certain point, except maybe movie, material, picker, and other stuff, but most of them are pretty useful to be out. Okay, so first, if I'm just running the simulation, this is what happens. So this is the default setting. We haven't made anything. I would just hit run simulation, and this is just falling off, and everything is set on the ground. Let me stop the simulation. So as you see, this is the basic default setting. Now, before we jumping into simulation, what you have to know that this is not, it will not simulate to make it final. Okay, it's not like you make the settings, you have the clothing, you hit on the button, and then you're good. No, this is a tool, and you have to fine-tune it. So if you don't know what you are looking for, it will be hard. So this is why we have to clean up the basics before we jumping in. So let me just undo this, and we have the cloth. And the first thing is, why do we have the cloth on the floor? Because the floor collision is turned on by default. The only object that we have interaction with is the floor at this stage. To create a model that we can interact with, we will use collision volume. But for that, I will turn off the hair, and maybe there's a hair that is not shown yet. Okay, we'll go. We are good. We have the extract, which one is the actual shirt. We have other hairs, and those are just turned off. Perfect. Okay, so there we are. And collision volume. Now I'm hitting collision volume, and it will take some time to calculate the whole mesh. This is the resolution of the mesh, so this is not exactly converting millions and millions of polygons into the collision volume. It is recalculates it. It's much more like ZRemesher, so I think it uses voxels as a base. Now this inflate button is pretty important. Let me show you what's happening. So if I'm just hitting a run simulation, well, this is still going down, but now it respects the 3D model, and if we and at a certain point it will tear down. Okay, so let us go back and see why it's happening. So the first thing is the gravity is way too strong, so we have to set the gravity a little bit lower, a lot lower, like 0.5. Let us check this run simulation. Okay, so now it's much better. But what you see here is the clothing became a little bit puffy. Okay, so the reason behind it is how the collision volume is calculated. Because when the collision volume is calculated, the inflate value is set to 1. That means there is a push, and for this reason, the overall thickness of the distance between the body and the cloth will be high. Now again, this is size dependent, so at this stage we should consider to lower it significantly. Let me set to 0.2. And the deal with this is, you always, when you make a change on the collision mesh, I mean everything that's not clothing, or everything that is the clothing interacting with and part of the collision, then you have to hit recalc. Even if you're adjusting values, for example, recalculation is required to do the new mesh. So let me undo this, the simulation itself, and hit recalc again and look for the results. So again, gravity is lower, inflate is lower, so let us check in what's going on. And now let me stop it here. So if your goal is to create something fairly simple without going crazy, and you know what you do and you want to sculpt, sometimes this is just enough. If not, you can go any further. But as I mentioned, the breasts, for example, these are not corrected for clothing simulation. So I will just quickly select this body, and if the brush is allowing, okay, and you go solo mode, and I will just shift D, walk down, and BMV, and just maybe reduce it slightly Oh, symmetry is not on. So reduce it slightly, just with a little bit of a smooth, pushing it slightly back. Okay, just like in real life, you not necessarily have the natural shape of the body is completely different than the shape that the body will pick up once it is covered or contracted with the clothing itself. That's yeah. So once we have this, we can walk back up, and I'm looking for some peaks. Okay, so here just smooth them out and relaxing the mesh to make it more kind of believable. And then the walk up, and let me leave solo mode and selecting the cloth if it allows me, and I will use the smooth brush. Now here's the reason I'm doing this, is because I want you to show and understand that you can work on your 3D model, you can work on the clothing. It's a back and forth process that you want to do, and if you see that something is off, look for the solutions. Now I'm using the smooth brush, changing some shapes, reducing it, and I will just recalculate this area. So make a with a brush mask, so selecting an area and inverting, and just a little bit of a smooth. So we have now an area that's masked, and this is why we are using unmasked and brushed. And we have fade border. That's a by default thing. I've used now a blur, but you can also use this fade border. Just keep in mind that you have now a double fade if you use the technique what I did. And this is working unbrushed. So unbrushed is basically unmasked. These are unmasked. I can go in here and run simulation, and as you see, the collision is a little bit bad. Okay, it remembers the collision. So this is why we have to recalc and look for the simulation now. So yeah, because it will be different. All right, and as you see, because of the masking, there's a few things going on. All right, so that's the first attempt. Now, what else you can do? And we have, don't forget, we have the polygon groups, which one is awesome to have them. Now, why do we have inflate, deflate, extract, and a few things? So it's time to talk about these. First of all, the gravity strength is not just about how strong the pull is. It is also about how much time it allows to perform the simulation. So if the gravity is higher, that means the whole simulation should be faster, and you need more iterations to catch up with the gravity. If the gravity is lower, then usually this simulation iterations can take its time and calculate better. So once we have these, we can actually just dial down gravity to 0.2 and use something else. Now what else should we talk about? First of all, we have this firmness value. Firmness is, the lower the firmness, the more the fabric becomes a lot more silky, and if it's higher, it will go closer to a burlap or even sheet metal or paper. Now that's about above 6, for example. Strength is about how much the structure is maintained, the surface keeping packed. Lower values, there will be more stretch and other things. Now sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, so you will see which one's working for you. Simulation iterations, you can crank it up, but it's not really a necessity to crank it up in most cases, but handle it carefully. Allow shrink, allow expand, it will make it very unusually behave. It's not really good for clothing, but if you have to create something slimy, stretchy, then it's really helpful. Self collision, now this is I will increase it to 1. You cannot really set it to 0.5, 0. Whatever it is. These are whole numbers, so set it to 1. And what my goal is I want to deflate an area. So, and for example, like removing air from that area. So maybe here at this just chest part, we can do that. So we'll just mask it out and invert. And gravity strength is fairly low, so I'm not concerned about this. Let me go deflate. What's the difference between deflate and expand and contract? Deflate is not changing the geometry. Deflate will use and try to maintain the polygon shapes and sizes. What it does, it's like acting you're having a paper bag and you are sucking out the air from it, and it will collapse. It will shrink down, but that's only the volume. The amount of the paper present will not change. So let me just set it to about 5 and show this in action. So as you see, because it's set to 5, it's really pulls in. Okay, it will really pick up the human shape. So let me undo this. Now I know more about how it behaves, so let me just add a little bit more mask to have a better transition. And maybe 5 is too much, so let me go with the 2. Run simulation and see how it goes. Okay, this is better. So now this is a tight clothing. Okay, so one way or another, this is how you can do the work. What else? If you wish to inflate, for example, you want to create a belt-like thing, you can actually just mask out an area. Let me go, not select lasso, mask lasso and skip. So let me go to the side and look for a lasso. This is a belt thing. I will just soften it up a little bit, and everything else. What else I want to exclude? I will definitely want to exclude this bottom part and this area at the top for sure. Now here's an issue. Okay, let me demonstrate this. This is more in a kind of advanced or a little bit more tricky, but why not? So here we have a blurred edge. Which one is good? Here we have a sharp edge, and that is not really what we're going into. So we want to have this also very smooth or smoother than this. So the way to do it is when you are using a lasso, and let me turn up perspective and zoom out completely. Oh yeah. And if I'm zooming out and this is small and I'm using the lasso, this is how it will act. It will generate a nice smoothie transition and stuff. But if I want, for example, make it more harsh in here, if I'm zoomed in, it will be harsh. Okay, so this is a technique you can use if you want to combine and mix areas. It works with the alt as well. So if you want to make it sharp here, this is working pretty nice. Let me just make it a bit less aggressive. I mean the amount. Okay, so let us put some air in here. Now what to do? So let me turn on deflate, and I will inflate it instead of deflating, adding some air here, and allowing expand 1 This is okay. This works fine. Now let me, if again, when you're doing clothing, the best tactics if you use quick save. So when you have something in between or you like it, you can save it or just press quick save. Undo history is great, but if you are already into ZBrush, you may not saving undo history a lot, because it just unnecessarily creates big files, especially if you have assemblies and other parts. But quick save is a really good deal. Now let me hit run simulation and see what it does. And this is looking okay. What's my problem with it? My problem with it, the inflate rate is too high, and expand is also, I will reduce them both, and the gravity strength is a bit low. This is why the inflation will do this. But another approach is, let me run the simulation for a short period of time. Now we have more volume. Then I will turn off inflate or expand, and I will crank up the gravity. Not crazy high, but maybe 2. So let me just jump in and see what's happening. So now this clothing is stretched out, and there we go. Okay, so if you have a belt, then you can put it in a belt and move on. This was pretty okay. I will shrink it and deflate slightly. Let me check this. Okay, it's not enough. Let me turn off gravity and run simulation. Okay, the deflate amount is too fast, so I need to lower it. And then that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so some things here and there. And maybe some smoothing here. Can we enjoy some smoothing? Yes. There we go. Okay, great. And a slide simulation in general with a little bit of gravity, 0.5, just to make sure that the extra amount of clothing is somewhat better organized. Deflate turned off. And okay, so there's more stretch. This is more loosey, a better fit. Okay, now what's next? You can do this all day long, and if you wish, you can even create a longer, like a skirt-like thing. It's up to you, just by using inflate and other techniques. My advice is to try to make the cloth as close as possible to your final, with the sculpting and ZRemesher and everything, to the final, because it will be easier or faster to do. And unwrapping and UV and polygrouping is also better if you do it early on. But this one is looks okay for now. Okay, well, so what's next? We have a couple beautiful brushes. Now, BCU is the Cloth Nudge brush. Now, here's the deal. Cloth Nudge brush is working great. You can just drag things around and just create nice things, but the result is not as good looking as it should be. So why is that? Because this is just a simple low res stuff, and we want to enjoy a high resolution look. But the low resolution look is for a reason, because it helps with the simulation. So this is why we have dynamic subdivision, one of the reasons. And when I'm checking on dynamic subdivision, it will instantly create a nice and smooth stuff. So the smooth is actually 2 times, so it will look like just it has been subdivided 2 times. Can you see? So these polygons are there. These are the original polygons, and subdivided once and twice. So this is why we have the 16 squares inside it. Now you can add more. You can actually add the thickness to it, and let me just crank up the thickness. This is too low. As you see, it is a fairly sensitive slider, but it works. So that's one of the differences. The other thing is this pause subdiv button. That's quite a neat little handy thing. If you untick it, the smoothing will be applied on the clothing. So that's another great help. If you don't want to do and use this thickness slider, what you can do is reduce the thickness in general and go down to, where are you, display properties, and double. So that will create this thickness illusion. Okay, I myself, I like the look of it, the thicker one. So let me just use that. But post subdiv, I will turn this off to have a little bit more realistic look. Okay, so there we are. And when you are using nudge, for example, this is working pretty well. Now here's something else what you need to know. When you have these features on, like inflate, and you're using nudge brush, and you start moving this around, inflate is also working when you are using the brush itself. This is not often communicated, as I see, but you know, it's not so sure. But these, you can combine these. So turning this on, let me go in deflate. So I'm using a nudge, but when I'm using the nudge, I'm also deflating the area. so I can pull on more and make a different approach. So I'm pulling in, but I'm also deflating, and as because I'm deflating, I'm keeping the mesh, the clothing itself on the figure. So that's a kind of a common mistake that I see it's made time to time, that deflate is on or anything is on, and you expect the brush to behave the same way as it behaves with other situations. No, it will not. Another a few wrinkles here and there. Usually we have wrinkles, especially when the arms are lifted. Maybe some here. And this is, again, it's working with the deflate, and I'm just using the nudge brush. And as you expect, this is fully symmetrical, which one is just pretty rare in real life. But just to speed up the process, this could be better. And then just if you've seen it, I was just using the smooth brush and going back, because smooth is just, in general, it can help a lot of things to behave a little bit differently. If you have an error somewhere, you can use just a little bit of a smooth, and that can help on the long run. Pulling in. Okay, so that's it basically about the nudge. And what else we have? BCV, which one is cloth move. Now cloth move, let me turn on deflate. Cloth move can really reorganize your stuff. So this is where you can really slide up and then just change the look of something. Now I'm just being overly ambitious. Yeah, so something like this to add a more natural curvature. Maybe pulling this down, smoothing it out, and just adding a little bit of a pull. So that helps. Okay. We have tons of different brushes. B, C. Usually these are the typical brushes. Now, there you will find quite a lot of tutorial about these, and it's basically just experimenting. So if you wish, for example, you can use this cloth hook and let me turn off symmetry and just pull things around. So that can really mess up things if you like. If you want to create some amazing dynamic clothing stuff for sculpting, or for a special shape. This one, for example, just really works well. So let me undo this, and something else. BC, and where are you wind, which one is somewhat similar, but the biggest difference is with the snake, with the hook, is it is keeping the clothing much more on the model. So that's the biggest thing, and it's like really pulling the thing. Now if you combine it again with the inflate, so inflate 1, you can just use it, and as you're pushing, it will inflate the material as well, so it can generate some nice especially for printing. Okay, so we're good. Experiment with the brushes, and once you have found your model, what I do like to use is this area. Let me undo a couple more, because that was in a better state before. I like this here, and using a smooth brush in this area, and sometimes there are little jags here and there, for example here, and it's not that bad when you have the clothing, but because usually you have a kind of a passe, kind of a close on the sleeves, around the neck, around the waist area, usually the fabric cannot behave like this. It can be crunchy like this. So for that, we can go into deformation and use polish by crisp edges. And polish by crisp edges, it can be really harsh. So let me just give it a try to mask it out, and blur, and polish by crisp edges, and then it's just fixed that area, so it is a bit more believable. Okay, so look around the outlines. Great. Okay. And of course you can use polish and everything else. And don't forget, what we have in reality is this. This is the actual stuff. And we have polygroups. Now because we have polygroups, we can actually use UV Master. And I will use UV Master just in a second. Let me turn off Inflate and just close Dynamics. And what we do need is Z plugin and UV Master. Where are you, Master? Polygroups. We might want to use control painting because this is front and back, which was okay, but this one is not. So control painting, attract. BPA is ready, and Skin Shade 4. Right, correct. Let me go with solo because my eyes will burn out if I have to watch this too long. And lazy mouse, pressing L and just start painting. Now this lazy mouse is not really as expected. Yeah, this is why I have to use stroke, lazy mouse function turned on, and lazy radius is set to 10. And this is great with the control painting as well. So just let me drag this. Oh, intensity seems to be super low. Why we have that? We have focus shift issue. Let me just go down with focus shift. Oh, shift F. Oh yeah, it's just the so intense color. Yeah, I can go in this way. Let me make sure that this is strong enough. All right, symmetry is on. Everything else should be okay. Shift F. Skin Shade 4 is great once you have paint, but if you don't have paint, it's just way too strong. And now going back to Z plugin. Control painting is okay. Unwrap and see what we have in flatten. There we go. Correct. Front and back, it's opened as expected. Now let me go unflatten. Check seams, and hopefully, yeah, we have the seams as it was told. Correct. What else do we care now? Let me go back with the flatten and tell you something. So we have the front panel, we have the back panel, and we have the sleeves. Now if you want to use a pattern like waving pattern or knitting or whatever, when you are using those patterns will be mapped based on the UV orientation. You can choose, but you may prefer to use UVs, because if you have a texture that's running top to the bottom, it is better if your UV map is running top to bottom as well. You can make corrections for sure, but it's just more convenient. So let me go to move mode, hold on control, pick the model. Oh yeah, turn off symmetry, pick the model, and I'm just realigning things around. And perfect. Okay, so this is standing in here, control and tap, and just moving it around, control and tap. And these are two, so the way to deal with them is like using mask and just unmask one area and then rotate, this part, and then invert mask and reposition the model. And okay, we have these masked areas as well. Okay, reposition, and now move it closer. So this is how it looks. And then unmask and control is this polygroup masking. So what this control tab can do is polygonal masking mostly. So let us just put this in here and maybe select this guy and moving control and move it somewhere here, and this guy and move it somewhere here. Correct. Okay, so not the most effective UV layout, but it's a decent one. Then remove the mask, go back to draw mode, and check unflattened, and check flatten again and see how it goes. And as you see, it's right there. So let me go back and shift F, and the reason we wanted to do this because we have to have some textures. And just a second, let me come back with my textures. Alright, so just look around the texture. So UV, not UV map, UV map. I don't care at the moment. Where are you, texture map? And open this up and import. And there you go, UV checker. So this is the first I want to use. And then go to, okay, can see how this thing is, okay, it's flipped, but I don't care at the moment about how flipped it is, but the whole pattern is like in real life. So when you have the suit panels all together, this is how it looks. So you can use these, you can paint on these, and this is really accurate. All right, so the pattern is matching up. Let me turn off the texture, and it's time to use. All right, and just to have a little bit of a better realistic look, so texture is showing us the orientation, and everything's fine with that, but we can use surface. Now, before I start using surface, definitely we want to build up the resolution a little bit. So there's no resolution yet. If I'm just pressing D, it is simply the dynamic subdivision. So no, we don't want that. We want to use Ctrl D to create a subdivision level, and Ctrl D another one, and we have 53. If you don't have the number here, of course you have it somewhere here. So Ctrl D, and let me check the density, if it's dense enough, and I will add one more, and now it's about 1,000,000, which one is, it's okay, we can still go higher, but just to keep things nice and a good flow, I will keep it as it is. And this is good for sculpting and good for some of the details we are trying to create. So let me hit on surface and noise, and the noise we're looking for is an alpha. So just zoom in, and we have the default noise applied here, which one we'll get rid of soon. So I'll turn on alpha and use the weaving alpha I have. This is a tileable alpha that could be used, and so basically what we're looking for is the alpha strength by mask. I will reduce it. We need to improve the strength value. Okay, strength by mask, alpha scale. Where's the UV will be used? Okay, so UV noise scale, that is not so significant, and the alpha scale should be lower. Okay, we want to see the patterns, right? So we are doing that. Alpha scale is lowered and lowered. I think it's fairly neat. Now, depending on what your final goal is, you may find yourself that you want to do more on the larger size, and if you are printing, you definitely want to cheat and use this larger. Even in visualization or animation, you may not want to go as deep in reality, these are so small that not barely or just barely visible, but it's always style dependent. I will use 0.1, and that is pretty okay. It adds a nice infant texture. If you have highlights or anything, it will break up. And the strength intensity, that could be cranked up a little bit more. You don't need to go any crazy, but just to make it pop. All right, so now this is fairly coarse in the mean of it's like a knitted woven pattern. So that's it's a dense one, but it's kind of believable. Okay, so that's where we are. And strength by mask is, we don't care about this. Mix basic noise, we don't really want to mix basic noise, so let me reduce this mix basic noise. And maybe the scale is okay. Maybe strength is too much now. Okay, just let me hit in here. All right, so looking around, look how It works in the back. Can you see? This is the reason why we wanted to create a UVs, because now we have exact seams here and there. And again, so basically all the values are almost 0. Alpha scale is 0.1. Noise scale, we don't really deal with that in this situation because we don't really use the noise. And alpha scale and strength will be the most important here. Alright, now let me hit on OK. And what's next? We want to apply it to the mesh. Z add, I don't care about colors now, and just apply to mesh and see how it will become. Now it's calculating. Okay, so there we are, and Shift D, walking down. This is the normal resolution, and walking up D, we have this nice and high resolution detail. So yeah, if you wish, you can smooth it out, edit, sculpt, whatever. Now, if you don't want to, if you want to sculpt but don't want to destroy such details, you can use Shift D, and this is the resolution for now. And just simply use a BCT brush, for example, and just add some wrinkles here and there. So maybe you want to add some compression folds or stretch here around this area, for example, and you can build this up. Adding maybe inflate slightly to add this volume, and BNU, the nudge brush. I'm not simulating anymore, so this is why I'm using the simple nudge brush, and that's it. And if we were walking up, we have the details there, right? So, but what you have to keep in mind when you're using this technique to make some corrections, it is better if you do it in a lower res. If you start sculpting BCT in a high res, this is the highest, and you start sculpting, it will just destroy your sculpt. Okay, this one is good if you want to create some patches, for example. So you know something is sewed on, or you have a color, you want to clean it up, so then you can use the skin shade for it's just killing my eyes. So you can use this, for example, to create a neck if you wish. Of course, if that is the goal, don't do this by just simply multiple strokes. It's better if you just use the lazy mouse. So lazy mouse with a 30 feature, it's pretty neat, and you can do this and catch up. And you can also use the smoothing slightly. You can create the lazy mouse functions with the smooth brush as well. So, and of course, if you're working with symmetry, that's how it goes. Now, basically, it has no thickness yet. So if you want to, again, if you want to use thickness or anything, you can do it as well. Now we're almost there. A few things that you may want to use. For now, I just want to go with geometry and add. We have a dynamic subdivision, but I will turn on dynamic subdivision, and this is just creating millions and millions of polygons. So it's not really the smartest move to do, but I will just turn off subdivision, smoothness, and thickness is basically what I'm looking for. Just to add some volume. Now, if it's not nice, I will just because we have all the details coming from the alpha. So for this reason, if it's not working correctly, what you can do is first create the closings, the sewings in the end, use them and model them, and then use the surface. Or you can create a polygroup for these and then use the surface, or you can create a polygroup right away in the beginning. So there's so many things you can do if you, for example, use Z modeler. But right now, this is just the beginning part of ZBrush, so we're not going into that details. However, soon we will catch up with that. Okay, so what I wanted to show that if you want to quickly reduce the, not reduce, but make it a little bit more handy in the 3D viewport. You can turn on display properties double, and what happens if you want to create some details like rivets and zipper, whatever, we have IM brushes, so BI, and we have these brushes. Now the problem with those, it's not a problem, but it's just a fact, these are not working with subdivision levels. So if you have a model that has subdivision levels, you definitely want to duplicate a model. So I will just do that. Duplicate. We'll turn this off, the original, and I will rename this to IM placeholder. And this IM placeholder is, we don't need as much geometry as we have now, so Shift D, that's decent. So I would just delete the lower, delete the higher, and looking up here. So now it has no subdivision levels. I prefer to do it this way. The software tells you can use free subdivision levels. I had no luck with free subdivision levels. It works in some situations, but in others it just confuses. So honestly, in my workflow, there's no really place with that. However, I know it's great and working in some situations, and it's quite a good tool to have. But it's easier to duplicate the model and just work on that. And then later on, you can always integrate or do something if you wish. Now, so what brush we are using? BI, and we have the IM clothing, BIC, yes, so that's the BIC, and Shift F, and this is automatically masking the stuff. So let me go in here and add some patterns, so just for decoration. Okay, we have solo mode on, and dynamic is on as well, or it was just simply an update issue. Well, it's not that good. Let me turn this on, give it a try. And if I'm turning this on, okay, then I'm just looking for another solution. Maybe solo mode is making tricks. Yeah. Okay, so solo mode is making tricks. There we are. We can hold down Control and tap, and hold Control, and it will allow us to create the exact size, but it's not useful all the time. So at least these will be the same. So we can hold down Control, tap, and hold Control, and it will pop in the right size. Now we don't have our custom brush that has some real life size, or a size that is matching with our model. So in this case, let me show you something else that could be used. So we're dragging it out and not doing anything crazy, just dragging it, and then switching to move. And by the way, if you are in move, you can switch it to any other model. Okay, so when you are using the 3D gizmo, now I'm here, I will just do some scaling, and we can actually just hold down Control. Let me zoom on and drag it. So Control and drag, and it will create an instant copy. So this way you can be sure that the size is matching. The other thing is we can just rotate it around and match it. It's either way, you have to spend some time with it, but at least it's right on place. Again, so we can go back and just start dragging out another one. Draw mode, and dragging out another one, and eyeballing it. Okay, what else? What happens if we have multiple things? So not just these rivets, but we have some caps, for example, snap assay. We have this snap patterns in here, and of course there we are. We want to push it to actually go through the material as it's designed to be, and draw it again, and just pull it back. Okay, so now we have two types of elements, and here's what I like to do is let me Control drag, and we have a special split function. So if I'm turning on Shift F, these are in different polygon groups, and we can go up here and split, even if these are not in different polygon groups. Split, we have the split to similar parts, the split to parts function. Split to similar parts is like it's watching you when it's the same what you have in the merge option. So here's this merge similar. So it calculates, it numbers the polygons, and if it checks and the same amount of polygons you have in one model, that would be grouped back. So split to similar parts, hitting OK, and similarities again, it's polygon count. So we have it as 2 as one group, and we have the other one, the rest of it, as another group. So basically that is it. I don't know why we have more than 4. It's just, I think it's just not updating, or we have something else. Let me go in here. Q, mask, is there a mask? Brush size, oh, the brush size is ridiculously small. Do we have, okay, it's somewhere else. It was hiding away. Yeah, we have the resting pieces, I guess. So the counterparts are also, it's just I'm not using this too much, so it is just the counterpart is there originally, so this is why we have so many numbers. All right, now back on track. We have the original, so let me turn this off. We have the original. This one has the resolution, so Shift D, whatever you need. This is pretty decent. Let me go back. So we have the texture. It could be leather, it could be anything. If you're using leather or any type of fabric that is not sensitive to orientation, then you don't have to rotate things around. But if you have fabric like this that's woven, knitted, or anything like that, then it's better if you create a UVs and fishnets, whatever, something similar. What else? Maybe a IMM curve brush, just to have an idea. So I will go with a proxy that created. Let me turn this off. So now we can use as a final one as a BIZ, I guess. Yeah, this is the metal zipper, and we have this closed zipper. This is an open zipper one side, open zipper other side, and just a thread without the head. And we can start from up and down, I guess. Let me see it. The size is huge, yeah. So the brush size, I think this should be ridiculously small, because, oh yeah, because the figure itself is fairly small. So we have to go really down. Okay, so that is decent. Now, one technique that could be used. So first of all, we want to see how it goes. So if you press the tab button, you will be actually able to see more of this brush when you are creating it. The other thing is, when you start, it will add the head. So I'll start from a little bit lower, and then it adds the head. And if I wish, I can make corrections, like move this thing around, or move the whole things at the right position, and then correct things. Let me just reduce the size and zoom in and align the whole part. And yeah, zooming is struggling a little bit, the computer, so I can pull this up. Now this is one thing that you can, and it's useful to use. Something else is we have the curve functions here, so you can delete the curve if you don't want them. Curve function, delete. You can smooth it out, but smoothing may maybe not your best option all the time. Something I'd like to introduce you is the liquid. So if you have liquid mode, you can actually just pull it further. So when you have a good starting point, you have positioned your curve, then you can use the liquid and just add more to it. Okay, and of course we want to move it around. Just try to snap it as much as possible and move it around, and just help this little guy to match. Okay, help this to match. It's not easy all the time, so it requires some dedication in some cases to get over with it, but this is how it goes. And don't forget to save frequently. And this liquid is good for extend or even call back. Let me just show this. You can just pull it back one by one and pull it out, but always check what you have in the 3D space and just make sure that you're moving your things in the right order. And once it is okay, it's better if you leave it as it is. One other option that we can use is if we start a new one. So let me drag this and we will start a new one. I will delete the curve that we have already. So curve functions, delete, and start a new one. That will be again a closed zipper, but right now I'm just using the lazy mouse function and set this to about 10 or even more, 15. And when using this one, we have a little bit better control over the whole stuff, right? So because if you don't have lazy mouse, no matter if you're using a pen or something, you cannot really make it so naturally nice. And can you see the difference? That's quite a significant difference between the two. Okay, so use lazy mouse, design the thing, know where this whole thing starts and ends, and basically that's it. And if it's a separate model, you can still use moving brushes and bend curves, for example, to repair if you have something to be sorted out. Okay, so that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed. Let me clear this couple last steps. And of course, when we have this model, we can actually do this thing before the mask was gone. So now this is one part, and I can use split, but I can use split unmasked points, and that creates the actual model. And for sure, curve functions, we don't need any delete because it's already deleted. And there we go. Here we have this proxy mesh and we have the original mesh, and that's it. All right, so hope you enjoyed. Where's the hair? Where's the hair? Here we go. So we have the hair, we have some shirt on her, and there we go. Thank you very much. See you next time. Goodbye.